Oh, Bethesda. They're shit. Hello everyone, it's me, James Stephanie Sterling, a Reese Witherspoon jawline and a big fat ass. And today we're going to be talking about Bethesda and a subject that was a favourite of mine many years ago, Fallout 76. Oh my yes. This past week, Kotaku published an article about Fallout 76's development, and would you believe it? The development was shit. Hardly surprising, because Fallout 76 is shit. The theme of today's video is surprise, the lack thereof, and how the lack of surprise should not exclude your disgust. So, let us discuss Fallout 76 and how disgusting its development process was. I'm James Stephanie Sterling, massive honking tits. As if you needed another reason to fucking hate Fallout 76, the piece of shit garbage wank sold on a pallet of lies and desperate market trend chasing, it might interest you to know that it was also yet another despicable example of the abusive working conditions that have come to typify modern mainstream game development. Yes, according to a damning report published recently by Kotaku, it appears that gaming giant Bethesda can join the ignoble ranks of companies that have earned their billions off the back of overworked and undercompensated developers who broke their backs for the sake of another pathetic industry cash grab. I've made no secret of my distaste for Fallout 76, it's quite obvious by now that I fucking despise it. At launch I considered it one of the biggest wastes of my fucking money that year, a hollowed out Fallout experience that served only to provide vapid mimicry of a series I previously enjoyed. In the months since, Bethesda staggered from PR blunder to PR blunder, each fresh disaster, usually centering around some word or other that the company had gone back on, be it the notoriously falsely advertised special edition with the nylon fucking bags, or the incremental erosion of the promise that microtransactions would not provide pay-to-win elements. Oh, it was just cosmetic! Until it fucking wasn't. Even the long-promised Wastelanders update failed to wow me, feeling like a flailing attempt to duct tape flesh onto a skeleton. Throughout the years I've been one harsh bitch when it comes to criticising this thing, and after hearing about the human cost that went into making it, I won't say I don't feel bad about that. Although I don't retract a single fucking thing. Like Anthem before it, Fallout 76 was made at the expense of its developers' health and well-being. Like Anthem before it, Fallout 76 was a load of hot fucking garbage on top of being a soul-sucking exercise in employee torment. Another desperate bandwagoning live service in a marketplace littered with desperate bandwagoning live services. And make no mistake, if the game had been good, if it had been great, if it had been downright fucking excellent, if it had been the best gosh darn dingling game I ever did play, it still wouldn't have been worth the torture it put its creators through. No video game is, or ever will be. At this grim point, nothing about Fallout 76's development should surprise you. Nothing you hear about it should shock you. It is yet another tale of gross mismanagement, failures of leadership, and merciless crunch. The kind you've heard before, the kind you'll hear again, the kind you need to keep hearing about, and need to keep talking about. Fallout 76's QA team felt some of the heaviest burden in yet another revelation that should shock nobody. As the game neared its launch, testers were working 10-hour workdays 6 days a week, strong-armed into overtime for low wages. Kotaku's reports say that testers felt coerced into their excessive hours and were made to work even when they weren't required. In a given example, testers were brought into work on a newly fixed build of Fallout 76, except the developers hadn't actually fixed anything, meaning they were working on a build that didn't have any of the fixes they were supposed to be testing. If that sounds fucking ridiculous, well, it's because it fucking is. But it does sound very Bethesda, doesn't it? The kind of ass-backwards, incompetent leadership that we've come to know and fucking loathe. It does sound ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But if Bethesda is one thing, it's ridiculous. But it's okay, because when staff were dragged into work long hours at the weekends at the behest of said incompetence, they got free pizza! Woohoo! Free pizza for you! That makes everything okay, right? In a situation that evokes thoughts of Amazon and its famously dystopian treatment of workers, Fallout 76 workers felt constantly surveyed during the project. Break times were monitored, and some people were even followed into the bathroom by so-called chronic snitches, whose unofficial jobs seemed to be spying on their colleagues for management. Well, that's pretty sick. Even sicker than reporting on their colleagues for the executive class, these snitches were apparently not even paid extra or had any additional privileges for telling on their co-workers. They were just fellow employees who believed career advancement could be had at the cost of those in their pay grade. Now that's one hell of a company culture Bethesda has going for it, huh? Says a lot about it that such an attitude and such a belief could be fostered. Kotaku notes that it wasn't just the QA department that suffered before, during, and after Fallout 76's accursed launch. Developers across the entire span of Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax were pressed into service on this thing, to the point that other projects such as Arcane Studios' Redfall and the long awaited Starfield suffered as a result, with team members drafted to the arduous, stressful job of cobbling Fallout 76 together. The toll on health wasn't just mental either. The excessive hours developers were expected to spend at their desks resulted in physical complaints, including back pain, tinnitus, and wrist aches to the point of needing braces. A large number of senior developers quit the company entirely, while those who remained were fucking wrecked. And like I said earlier, there's no surprise here. I'm sure very few of you, particularly those of you who followed this show for years, could even convincingly feign shock that yet another gaff-laden service game was achieved through human misery. I doubt those of you who followed the major backstage gaming stories these past couple of years could even muster a gasp at the knowledge yet another so-called AAA company put profits over people and was so disastrously managed by clueless executive dipshits that the resulting toll on physical and emotional well-being wasn't even a good fucking game. It's not shocking anymore. It's not surprising. BioWare crunching its developers to the point that stress casualty became a common term for an artist with a nervous breakdown. Epic Games coercing talent into breaking their backs to keep the juggernaut of Fortnite up and running. Rockstar and Riot Games building their vast fortunes on boys club cultures that prized anger-driven managers and sleazy attitudes to the detriment of those targeted by said anger and sleaze. Quantic Dream bullying staff members and rewarding bigotry. Ubisoft protecting and promoting harassers and abusers of every lowly stripe for years. Activision Blizzard under the baleful watch of a violent-minded billionaire sex pest, turning mistreatment of the workforce into a disgusting fucking art form. These are just some of the names, some of the lengthy list of stained names that Bethesda can add itself to. A list of names that never stops growing and continues to justify what I've said for years. Investigate every video game company, every publisher, every developer, because as I've been screaming into the apparent void for years now, the video game industry is rotten to the core. Corrupt, inside and out. As I said moments ago, Bethesda's story isn't shocking, it's no surprise, but that should never, ever preclude it from being sickening, disgusting, utterly fucking abhorrent. The game industry for years tried to normalize the idea of crunch, tried to get ahead of stories like Bethesda's by glorifying the dedication and passion that goes into game development. And sure, crunch is normal. But normal is not the same as okay, and the video game industry is so fucking far from okay. Never let the normalcy of a story like Bethesda's be seen as a sign that it's fine, that it's mundane, that it's beyond the need for condemnation. Sure, you've heard it all before, but if you let that stop you being outraged, you'll hear it again and again and again because it will not fucking stop. People will keep being abused, keep being hurt, keep being driven out of the fucking industry by a management class that couldn't manage to wipe its own fucking ass if its hands were made out of Charmin. It should also be no surprise that said management had no fucking idea what it even wanted Fallout 76 to be, in yet another parallel to the disaster that was Anthem. Very much like with BioWare's great failure, Bethesda simply knew it wanted to capitalise on the live service gold rush that typified the very late 2010s, but hadn't really thought beyond that. Notorious bullshit merchant Todd Howard was supposed to be in charge of the project, but spent most of his time on Starfield. His presence in Fallout 76's development was colloquially known in-house as seaculling. He would, and I quote, fly by later and shit all over an idea that the team doing the actual job had been working on. Leadership had severely underestimated the scope and scale of a live service game, again mirroring what we learned about Anthem's creation, and offered no additional resources for testing or fixing a product that would operate on a far larger scale than anything Fallout had done before. Developers raised questions about issues that affected massive multiplayer games such as server issues, griefing, and online stability, but those in charge just hand-waved away concerns or outright ignored them. In short, those running the show had no fucking idea what kind of work was needed for a game as big as Fallout 76, and seemed to have even less interest in finding out. For years, I've very explicitly used the word incompetent to describe Bethesda. It's perhaps my most commonly used descriptor of its leadership. To see its ineptitude spelled out in full journalistic detail pretty much validates every mocking insult I've had for Todd and the gang, but to re-emphasize the running message of this video, none of this means I'm not fucking repulsed. I'm not surprised, but I am repulsed. For all the mockery, for all the laughter I've hurled at Bethesda for its endless ridiculousness, I'm nauseated all the same that its management only continues to do what corporate management seems to do across the board: fail upwards, find success despite their own glaring inadequacy, at the express cost of those who have to work underneath them. Of course Bethesda's games are always laughably buggy. Of course Bethesda's launches are downright renowned for how fucking broken they are. And it ain't the fault of the people putting in the effort. These projects are led by people so fucking buffoonish, so fucking clownesque, that they didn't even think they needed to consider multiplayer stability a serious concern for a massively multiplayer live service game. When you're dealing with a company that disastrously run, can you be surprised when they're constantly releasing jank-riddled nonsense? No, you can't be surprised. Because it's normal. Jank, bugs, crunch, abuse, outright fucking incompetence. That's what normal is for Bethesda. And it's not fucking okay. Shit like this is happening constantly, endlessly, and the leaders of the video game industry, the executive class, have the sheer fucking temerity to complain and whine when game developers, game testers especially, want to unionize. It's no surprise that QA testers at Ravensoft were the first to unionize. It's no surprise that QA testers working on Dragon Age 4 have pushed to unionize. They are dumped on constantly. We've known about it for years, and finally they've had enough. They want to push back, and video game companies, corporations in general, fear unionization. They fear collective bargaining. They fear an organized workforce, because that means for them the free ride is over. Sure, they'll still continue to make billions and billions of dollars, but they might lose a fraction of a portion of a percentage of 1% of their money. And Lord knows, for corporations, vast, humongous, ravenous entities that want every last conceivable penny in the world, that's just too much give. Well, they probably have had to have given a lot less if they weren't so committed to taking, regardless of the human cost. Any unionization that happens in the video game industry from here on out, and I certainly hope that cases of BioWare and Raven Software instigate a lot of these changes. Hello again, sorry. I know I was in the middle of a rant, but we had to cut it short because some men came and they had caps, so they were scary. So I can't remember what I was saying, but it was probably good. So, you know, feel free to thank God for me for saying it, and certainly thank God for the unionization efforts. I need a studio again, gang. Bye.